am just jumping on a few platforms. So I'm going to spend a minute and make sure. Okay, good. I'm seeing I'm on with Instagram, and I just want to make sure I am here with Facebook too. If anybody is on Facebook, drop a comment so I can make sure. Okay, I do see a few. Let me know you're here and that you can hear me. I think we're good on all the platforms. So today marks a really special day for me. I'm going to spend the next hour talking about grief. I love you too, honey. And today marks 6 years of when I lost my son. It was a tragic and unexpected event. But what's unfolded in all the years since then has been the most amazing journey. So for anyone who has had a special one pass away, or they're still trying to find their way through grief, losing a child, even miscarriages, please tag anyone in this to join. This message is specifically meant for healing and also raising the vibration on a collective. That's been my mission for a while now. Over the next hour, it's going to get really raw and probably uncomfortable. I'm going to trigger some of you guys. And if it triggers you, just know that usually means there's something there that you need to dive in a little deeper to. So don't be surprised if you get triggered throughout this. You know, the story of my son with my grief, I mean, he was my soul partner. So just like everyone who's had a big loss, your entire world is thrown upside down. You can't even see or picture a life to continue. Could even be so many individuals are so connected to their parents or even to grandparents. You feel this soul deep connection. And when you lose them here on the physical realm, oh, hold on. Thanks, Stacy. Sorry, you guys have my computer screen. All right, Instagram, can you see me now? All right, I think we're good now. And so you feel this heavy loss of even trying to understand how to continue starts becoming our identity. To me, it was now who I was. I was a grieving mother. I was a grieving mom who has to live with that for the rest of her life. And that's what I was told. That's what we're known. That's what I'm told. Those soon became my beliefs. And I plummethed. I went deep, dark. This is now my life. And not even knowing who I was anymore. I couldn't even understand my own thoughts. I couldn't understand the world I lived in. Nothing made sense anymore. Any that has gone through, you know, a heavy loss, that's where you're at for quite some time. Everybody starts in that process, in that just loss of. But then as the years came and as trying to move, right, you have a million layers of letting go, a million layers. I mean, you know, your first layer of letting go of the first birthday that they're no longer there, the first holiday that they're no longer there, the first time you have to maybe turn off phone services, the first time you send a text or a phone call and you know they won't be picking up. Hi, Shelby. Thanks, love. These are all the million letting go steps that you walk through. And so your new reality is day by day of letting go. And you start navigating that. You start getting in good practice of that, but it comes in huge, heavy waves. My last letting go was not too long ago. It was earlier this year, of letting go of his room and all of his belongings. So why do we hang on to grief? Like, you know, I constantly think I had so many people who couldn't relate, and all they could voice to me was, you know, your loved one wouldn't want to see you this way. It's time to move on. And yet we hang on to this because it's in our truth, it's our last way to show love. It's our last bit of connection. It's our way to show the depths of my grief are equivalent to the depths of my love. There's all of these beliefs that at some point become false beliefs, but we hang on to them for survival mode. You know, you constantly hear, well, you'll learn to live with grief. Grief will never go away. It's something you'll just learn to live with. That time doesn't heal, you'll just learn how to carry it with you. That the depth of grief equals the depth of love, that you honor them by showing that sadness and that loss. And that's just, at some point, these no longer were my beliefs. At some point, these were so damaging to me. We relate that the depth of our pain resembles somehow how much we loved the person. And don't get me wrong, like, they all served my process. They carried me. It was that connection I had. Every day my grief moved and felt different. Every day my grief was living and breathing through my day, through what I had going on. And each of these days, it felt like that special person was still moving with me. And I clenched onto that like crazy. It was the last piece I didn't want to let go of. Honestly, like, to be honest, and all my close people know this, if anybody would have voiced any of that to me, to like, let go, or it doesn't serve you, I would have throw punched them. Like, legit, I would have throw punched you if you tried to say that to me. And it's because I held on to it so tight. It's the piece I didn't want to let go of. It was the only thing that was moving and breathing, connected to my son, that could still be connected to me. So that layer of letting go, oh, I fought that tooth and nail. And that may be where a lot of people watching this are at. And I'm not here to tell you to let go. I don't want to be throat punched. I don't want you after me. But what I did want to do is plant a little seed that when you're ready, and you'll feel it, you'll know it when you're ready, that there's something on the other side of all of this. It's just planting a seed of, what if grief could be 100% released? And to some, you're going to say, well, that's not possible. I was on a call with my sister last night, and she reminded me that may be where a lot of people are at right now. It's not possible. My sister said, nope, it's not possible. The last 2 years, that's where I've been living. I've been living completely free and released from grief, 100%. And we mix what grief means. Well, if you're 100% released from grief, then that means you don't miss him. I mean, how horrible is that we connect that's what that means, that in order to miss somebody, you can't let go of grief. You know, there's your own definition of what is grief and what are the beliefs of it and how does it serve you. For me, it was my lifeline. For me, it's what my entire world and reality was. And when I let my truths and beliefs about it be that I had to live with it forever, I didn't want to live anymore. I was like, I can't live with this forever. I have 2 more kids to raise. I'm approaching 40. How do I do 40 more years of this? It was the most exhausting thought. It was not serving me. That thought wasn't serving me. And at a certain point, started saying, you know what? I'm rewriting this. I am rewriting what my story is after losing a child. I don't have to live with grief forever. I don't. It was the most damaging thing, and nobody was benefiting from it. My little children weren't benefiting from it to see their mom. Me, I mean, to say that my whole life just ended and this is what I have to deal with for the rest of my life. This is what's on my plate, and there's no way to wash my hands clean of it. So here's where, depending on where you're at in your navigation of grief, is it working for you? I mean, really sit with that. Is it really working for you? The stories we build around it, the truths we build around it. Anybody who knows me knows the love I had for my son and knows the depth I went into in my grief with him, and knows that here I am on this other side, completely living a completely different life, a life that I know, oh, wow, does it honor him? Grief didn't honor him. Grief didn't honor myself either. Grief didn't honor the collective energy of this whole earth. When I was going through it, I started recognizing that I'm a deep empath, and that I was actually taking on the grief of everybody that knew him. I would be hit with grief, and I knew it wasn't mine. And I knew it was somebody else was mourning him and really struggling. And so I'd reach out. And I started realizing that I was this almost open portal for allowing any and all grievers to come. And I view it that we're meant to transmute this energy. We are all human, and we're all here part of the human experience, which is every emotion. We get to feel the depths and heights of every emotion. And we also are here to learn how to transmute those emotions, transmute the energy that is no longer serving us. Grief doesn't resemble at all on any level of consciousness. It does not serve me honoring my son or myself. So if you rewrote what grief is for you, or rewrote your beliefs about it, releasing all the false beliefs from it, now really sit with that. What does that look like? What does it look like to be free of grief? Again, I'm going to trigger people by saying this: 100% being able to release grief. It's gone. How can you 100% release this on every level, for you, your family, for your loved one, to help reshift the consciousness, the heaviness that exists here on this earth? And I'm just here to plant that seed, just the seed of that. That when you're at that place that you know you're meant to release it, you get to. I'm giving you the permission right now that you get to release it. Even if you feel others may judge you or may think that you're ignoring it or stuffing it down. I've had a lot of people mention that. There's no way. I've had to convince some people, like, and I don't feel it's in my truth to have to convince people, but there's some that absolutely cannot fathom how I've released it. But when you're in that place where you've gone in the depths of it, you've understood where it is you're supposed to grow from, how you're supposed to heal from it, you're finally at that place that you can rise up, not above, because there's not levels here. You can rise into a different way of what your truths are, that you get to do that. Here's that permission, that it doesn't at all, give a definition that you're ignoring, blocking, or stuffing it down. Now, again, you've got to go through that process, through the process of feeling the emotions, going through the emotions, understanding them, realizing them, acknowledging them, loving them, and also what it means for you. For me, what came about was that I needed to address self-love. That is something that was my biggest part of releasing grief, of actually recognizing what I'm supposed to heal from, recognizing what my part in all of this was. It all came down to self-love. It all came down to what I'm worthy of. What it came down to of how I get to rewrite my life, how I get to take back control of my life. That again may really trigger individuals that are in deep despair of grief. But again, I'm just here to plant that seed, that when you're at that place, you get to move through it. You get to release it, and you're releasing it from a place of so much love and compassion. So if you got to sit down and rewrite your story from here going forward, my first few years of grief, that was the story and that was my chapter, and it served a extremely valuable part in my process. I have somebody right now asking, how do you release grief from broken relationships? And there's a part that it's understanding and identifying your self-worth and your love in that process. We hang on to the amount of identity and value we had in this person. We hang on to the dreams we had and the expectations we had and how we viewed what that was going to be. And because we hang on to that, that's where our pain comes from. That's where our pain starts, is what it should have been, what it could have been, what was stripped away from me and what I thought this was going to be. I mean, there's a lot of self-reflection that you got to turn into with that. Because here, how I view relationships and connections, and some of you that know me well know that I go deep in on some of this stuff, but you hear those sayings that connections, every connection, there's a reason for it. There's a season, a lesson, a lifetime, and there's so much truth in that. And we're not here to identify who it is that's supposed to be in our life forever, in this lifetime forever. They come, connections come 100% specifically for our growth, for our healing, for our learning. And if we can really start stepping back and seeing and understanding it for that, we let go of the expectations and the ideal of what we thought that relationship was going to be. You know, the first 17 years my son was alive, I could never see him at an older age. That's something I couldn't ever see. I couldn't ever see him as that adult starting a family. That wasn't his purpose here. We all come for millions of different things to learn about, to heal, to shift. And as soon as we start putting like our own restrictions on what that is, nope, this is what this relationship is. This is what this connection is. You're not allowing the true flow of what should be moving through for that connection, authentically how you should be having that connection. This is where heartache, but we're here to experience all of this. We're here to experience every emotion, every relationship. I'm going to read this comment out here right now from a user, and I don't see their name on it, so I'm not sure who wrote this, but grief is brutal, beautiful and brutal. Our wounds, if written, can become our core calling and best gifts to the world in time. So much truth behind that. It is worth the struggle. Being a widow for 17 years, raised 4 kids myself, and been in the ditch, but also on the greatest mountain. I feel you. Life is the greatest teacher. Asking better questions during grief makes a huge difference. Self-love, God's love, and turning the mirror around makes all the difference. So much truth in that. You know, it's hard to turn that mirror around. It's hard to sit with ourselves and ask all the hard questions of why we put our own value and self-worth on others and into other relationships. You know, I'm coming to it from losing a child. And even then I did. He was my world. He was my why. It's what I lived for. And then I had to sit and re-question that. I had to sit and think, okay, well, now what am I left for? Why am I still here living? It's doing that reflection and allowing ourselves to release grief. There's a difference between grief and love. There's a difference between missing someone and grief. And I'm not here at all to hurt any individuals that are still in those depths. I know what that was like. And it's a process, and you're meant to be there. You are meant to feel it on every level of depth, and it's brutal and it's painful. But if you constantly keep your awareness of what it is that you are to learn from and gain from this, and all of it comes down to always resembling from a place of love and self-love. So, hi, Rachel, Melissa. If you could sit and rewrite your beliefs on grief. And it's really hard when you're in the depths of it and you have all these people from the outside who haven't experienced it. You have them giving opinions and insights that's coming from a place of love. They just want to see you happy, but all they want to do is throat punch them. I feel you. Like, oh man. I can't tell you how many times if it was just, you don't know, you didn't go through what I went through. You can't say just get over this or just move past it. Like, I would have done some damage on you. So I get it. But there was a certain time in my process that it no longer worked for me. It no longer worked for me. I actually wanted, this was the moment that everything shifted for me. So I was still living in the home, and I still am living in the home where I raised my son, and so many memories. And there was a day that I said, I need a change. So drastic, such a drastic change. Not just move to a different part in Salt Lake City, not move to a different county, not even move to a different state. I need so much of a new, fresh start. I am dying and something has to change drastically. And I knew I was strong enough. I knew I was strong enough for that change. And those pieces are huge. They've got to be there in alignment. I knew I was strong enough. And what I put out to the universe, was, if you want to move me to a different country, to the middle of Africa, I'm in. Whatever needs to happen for this shift for me, I surrendered. I surrendered to such a depth that I did not put any kind of restrictions on my surrender. And what I mean by that is I was willing to let go of my 2 other children and let them be with their father. I was willing to give up this home that was the entire reality of my son and memories, and give up all of his belongings. I would have sold everything off and up and moved to Africa. And I started looking into it. And I also said, that's what I'm up for. That is the extent I am willing to change my life. I have to change this. And if you're at that place, surrender. Don't, to me, it was almost easy. I'd been through freaking hell. Nothing could have been worse. So I knew that anything on the other side was better and was going to be better for me. And it was going to allow me to continue living. And so the surrender for me was easy. Now, I didn't allow the thoughts of, well, I'll miss my family, I'll miss my kids. I didn't allow all of the worries and stress. All I knew is that the universe has my back, that God has my back, that my son Dylan, all of my angel team had my back, and that everything would work out beautiful and exactly the way it was meant to the second I gave in and surrendered and gave up all of my worries, all of my restrictions, all of my fears. And if you're feeling you're in that place, just dive in, sink into it, knowing your entire guardian team, source, God, whatever that is that you want to call that, your higher self, that they have your back. They are going to just guide you along the way. That was the start. I think it was exactly 2 years ago that this came up for me. And I have been on the most beautiful, magical ride ever since. And guess what? Grief is not all part of it. Grief has been 100% released. But I had to rewrite my beliefs about grief. I had to let go of all the beliefs that no longer served me, that were false, that were no longer, they were just holding me back in every way. And they carried me when I needed to be carried. And then I gained strength. And I gained courage to live again. These are all parts of the steps. I'm going to leave you on this note of, again, just planting this seed. That's it. Just planting a seed. But what if you didn't have to live with grief? What if you could completely release it? What would that look like? What would that feel like? And if you're in this calm, beautiful, amazing space of what it feels like, that is the feeling you move forward with. And every choice and decision and path you move, if it doesn't feel like that, then that's not your path. And you realign till you can line back up with that feeling of pure love, pure peace, unconditional support and protection. And then release everything from there. Reshift your consciousness. Reshift the heaviness on this earth as a whole. All of it. Reshifting. Hey, Sonia. So much love for you. And I know you've had a crazy hit the last 3 months, month after month of loss. Sending you loves. Thanks, Stacy. Such a difference between grief and love. And yet we associate the two. We connect those two. We say, that became my belief, that I grieve this to this extent because that was the same well of the depth of my love. And of course, there's so much heartbreak that you got to go through and you've got to process. But then when you're ready to shift and you're ready to rewrite your story and you're ready to release all of those false and limiting beliefs that everyone else has put on us, like, it no longer is my story. It does not serve me. If it doesn't serve you, find that shift, find that release. I'm going to end on this note. And everyone have a beautiful, amazing day and Wednesday of just spreading love and releasing all the heaviness. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.